Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss The Godfather, starring Marlon Brando, Al Pacino, James Caan, John Cazale, Robert Duvall, Diane Keaton, Sterling Hayden, Richard Conte, Talia Shire, and Al Lettieri, and directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Now, this will be my second viewing of this movie because I've seen it once, and I remember, well, honestly, I haven't seen it until like about, I don't know, 2 years ago. So let's see if it's as good as people say it is, because I don't remember too much about it in general. Let's get into it. In late summer 1945, Don Vito Corleone, played by Marlon Brando, has a daughter named Connie, played by Talia Shire, who's from Rocky before, who's getting married to a man named Carlo Rizzi, as it's her wedding day, and Vito, which is what we're calling him, is the head of the Corleone Mafia, as it is known to his friends and associates as Godfather. And despite these are terrific characters, Marlon Brando, I hear, is a prick in real life. And he does do a magnificent job in this movie, despite he didn't accept his Oscar win the year he won for this movie, which sounds kind of like a dick thing to do, in my opinion, anyways. Vito and the Corleone family lawyer Tom Hagen, played by Robert Duvall, are hearing requests for favors to because, according to the Italian tradition, no Sicilian can refuse a request on his daughter's wedding day, which Family Guy does an episode of that same kind of premise. So Vito, aka the Don, I guess, is for real what we should call him, which is rather fucking confusing. But he has a son who's the youngest, named Michael, played by Al Pacino, who has a girlfriend named Kay Adams, played by Diane Keaton, as Michael's older brother, Fredo, played by John Cazale, are introduced in this beginning wedding scene, which I do really enjoy the wedding scene, as we're also introduced to Santino, who's nicknamed Sonny, played by James Caan, as he's the Don's oldest son, and I really like these characters, to be honest with you. Also among the guests at the celebration is the famous singer Johnny Fontaine, who's Corleone's grandfather, who comes from Hollywood to petition Vito's help in landing a movie role that will revitalize his flagging career, as Jack Waltz, who is the head of the studio, denies Fontaine the part, who is a character like Johnny himself, which will make him even a bigger star. Don Corleone says to Johnny he'll make an offer he can't refuse. The Don also congratulatory salutations from Lucia Brasi, a terrifying enforcer in the criminal underworld, and fills a request from the baker who made Connie's wedding cake, who wishes for his nephew Enzo to become an American citizen. And these are great characters, and the actors do an amazing job with making us look at them as these characters. And it is all thanks to the director Francis Ford Coppola, who does an outstanding job making this movie come to life, even though he didn't want to do it at the time. After the wedding, Hagen is dispatched to Los Angeles to meet with Waltz, as Waltz tells him angrily that he will never cast Fontaine in the role, as he holds a grudge because Fontaine seduced and ruined a starlet who Waltz had been grooming for stardom, with whom he had a sexual relationship, as Waltz is persuaded to give Johnny the role. And the cinematography is magnificent, and the score to this movie is tremendous, as it is a very violent film. For example, when Waltz wakes up the next morning and feels something wet in his bed, as he pulls back the sheets and finds himself a pool of blood, and he screams in horror when he discovers the severed head of his prized $600,000 stud house Khartoum, or it's his horse. I'm sorry, I should rephrase that. $600,000 stud horse Khartoum in the bed with him, which was graphic, but hell, it's a mob film and it's a great film at the same fucking time. Upon Hagen's return, the family meets with Virgil the Turk Sollazzo, played by Al Lettieri, who is being backed by the rival Tartaglia family as he asks the Don for financing as well as political and legal protection from importing and distributing heroin, as the Don refuses, explaining his political influences. And the judges and politicians he's allied himself with over the course of being several decades world renounced their friendship with him. And if he were to enter the drug trade, but what's the plot of this movie? Can anyone tell me? Because I'm 45 minutes into this movie, and it might take a while to know the actual plot. Maybe I will find out in a couple minutes, but I hope it tells me. But don't get me wrong, I am liking the movie quite a bit. But it's going on without a plot for at least 45 minutes. After a meeting with Salazzo, the Don is gunned down in an assassination attempt just outside his office, and it is immediately known whether he survived, which I think is one of the movies I'm going to review soon. Analyze this. Did this seem as a dream? But this does it better. When Sonny hears about the Don being shot in Paulie's absence, he orders Clemenza to find Paulie and brings him to the Don's house. Salazzo abducts Tom Hagen and persuades him to offer Sonny the deal previously offered to his father. And when Tom is released, Salazzo gets word that the Don has survived the attempt on his life and angrily tells Tom to persuade Sonny to accept his offer, which is a scene that's done very well. Clemenza's family hitman Rocco Lampone takes Paulie a drive to Manhattan for as Sonny wants to go on the mattresses to set up beds in the apartments for Corleone's button men to operate out in the event the war breaks out. On the way to Manhattan, Clemenza has Paulie stop the car in a remote area so he can urinate, which is sick, sure, as Rocco shoots Paulie dead, and he and Clemenza leave and Paulie in the car behind, which is an interesting choice. Michael, whom the other hand mafia family consider a civilian and not involved in mob businesses, visits his father in the hospital as he is shocked to find that no one is guarding him, and a nurse tells him that the men are interfering with hospital policy and were told to leave by the police about 10 minutes before Mike's arrival, as he realizes his father is going to get killed, and he calls Sonny for help and moves his father to another room and goes outside the entrance, and he enlists Enzo, the baker's help, who has come to the hospital to pay his respects as they bluff away Salazzo's men together as they drive by. Police cars soon appear, bringing the corrupt Captain McCluskey, who viciously punches Michael in the cheek and breaks his jaw, which that's gotta fucking hurt. When Michael institutes that Salazzo paid McCluskey to set up his father, just then Hagen arrives with police detectives licensed to carry gun stock, protect the Don, and he takes the injured Michael home. When the cop hits Michael is a little uncalled for. Sonny responds by having Bruno Tattaglio, I don't even know if I'm saying that name right, the eldest son and underboss of Don Philip Tattaglia, killed off screen, and I like that you can picture that in your imagination. Salazzo requests a meeting with the Corleones, which Captain McCluskey will attend as Salazzo's bodyguard when Michael volunteers to kill both men during the meeting. Sonny and the other senior family members are amused. However, Michael convinces them that he is serious and that killing Salazzo and McCluskey is in the family's interest. Because Michael is considered a civilian, he won't be regarded as a suspicious ambassador for the Corleones. Although police officers are usually off limits for hits, Michael argues that since McCluskey is corrupt and has illegal dealings with Salazzo, Michael also implies that newspaper reporters that the Corleones have on their payroll would delight in publishing stories about a police captain, despite the movie maybe invented it. But how many movies do we have corrupt cops? I mean, I know this was a book, but it gets cliched after a while. But before the meeting in a small town restaurant, McCluskey frisks Michael for weapons and finds him clean. After a few minutes, where Michael and Saluzzo converse in Italian, Michael excuses himself to go to the bathroom, where he retrieves the planted revolver, returning to the table where he fatally shoots Salazzo, then McCluskey, which was incredibly violent, but I'll excuse the fact it's a mob movie. Michael is sent to hide in Sicily, while the Corleone family prepares for all-out warfare with the five families who are united against the Corleones at this point, as well as a general clampdown on the mob by the police and government authorities. When the Don returns home from the hospital, he is distraught and to learn that it was Michael who killed Solizzo and McCluskey, and this is a violent segment, but it works well in this movie. Meanwhile, Connie and Carlo's marriage is disintegrating as they argue publicly over Carlo's suspected infidelity and his possessive behavior toward Connie. By Italian tradition, nobody, not even a high ranking mafia don, can intervene in a married couple's personal deputies. Or disputes, I'll say. Excuse me very much. Even if they involve infidelity, money, and domestic abuse, one day Sonny sees a bruise on Connie's face and she tells him that Carlo hit her after she asked him if he was having an affair. Sonny takes down, and severely beats Carlo in the middle of the crowded street for brutalizing the pregnant Connie and threatens to kill Carlo if he ever abuses Connie again. An angry Carlo responds by plotting with Tartaglio and Don Emilio Barzini, the Corleone's chief rivals, to have Sonny killed, which was a brutal scene to watch. Later on, Carlo has one of his mistresses on phone his house. Knowing that Connie will answer, the woman asks Connie to tell Carlo not to meet her tonight. And I thought, oh shit, Carlo is definitely fucked. The very pregnant and distraught Connie throws a tantrum, throwing the plates with their dinner around the kitchen and then breaking everything in the dining as he takes advantage of the attraction to beat Connie in order to lure Sonny out in the open, away from the Corleone compound. When Connie phones, the compound tells Sonny has beaten her again. The enraged Sonny drives off alone and unescorted to fulfill his threat against Carlo. And I like the way James Caan plays these scenes in a violent manner. On the way to Connie and Carlo's house, Sonny is ambushed at a toll booth on the Long Island Causeway and violently shot to death by several carloads of hitmen wielding Thompson submachine guns. And this scene is very fucking violent. Tom Hagen relays the news of Sonny's massacre to the Don, and rather than seek revenge for Sonny's killing, the Don meets with the heads of the five families to negotiate a ceasefire. And not only is this conflict draining all their assets and threatening for their survival, but ending it is the only way that Michael can return home safely. Reversing his previous decision, the Don agrees that the Corleone family will provide political protection for Tattaglia's traffic in heroin as long as it is controlled and not sold to children. At the meeting, the Don deduces the Don Barzini and not Tattaglio was ultimately behind the start of the mob war, and Sonny's death, despite showing early signs of senility. I don't even know if I'm saying this word right. Let me read that. Senility, something like that, which is rather a smart choice. And Sicily is Michael patiently waits for his exile, protected by Don Tomasino. Jesus Christ, I can't even see these fucking names. Who's an old family friend. Michael aimlessly wanders the countryside, accompanied by his ever-present bodyguard, Kalo and Fabrizio, in a small village. Michael meets and falls in love with Apollonia Vitelli, the beautiful young daughter of a bar owner. The court and They court and marry in traditional Sicilian fashion, but soon Michael's presence becomes known to Corleone enemies as the couples is about to be moved to a safer location. Apollonia is killed as a result of a rigged car, originally intended for Michael, exploding on ignition. Michael, who saw the car explode, spots Fabrizio hurriedly leaving the ground seconds before the explosion, implicating him in the assassination plot, which was rather depressing in my mind. Michael returns home more than a year later in 1950. He reunites with former girlfriend Kay after a total of 4 years of separation, three in Italy and one in America, as he tells her he wants to be married, but Kay is hurt for waiting so long to contact her. She accepts his proposal, which feels pretty unrealistic. While working for the family again, Michael travels to Las Vegas and meets Mo Green, a rich and shrewd casino boss looking to expand his dealings after the Don's attempted assassination. Fredo had been sent to Las Vegas to learn about the casino business from Green. Michael arrogantly offers to buy out Green, but is rudely rebuffed. Green believes that the Corleones are weak and that he can secure a better deal with Borzoni. As Mo and Michael heatedly negotiate, Fredo sides with Mo. Afterward, Michael warns Fredo to never take sides with anyone against the family, which is a pretty good damn message. Michael returns home and Kay asks Michael if he'll agree to be a godfather to Connie and Carlo's newborn son, which is an honor. Michael agrees and seizes the opportunity to eliminate competition from the other five families while also using the baptism as an alibi. The murder occurred simultaneously during the ceremony as Don Strachey is gunned down along with his bodyguards in a hotel elevator by a shotgun. Wheel di Clemenza, which is violent. Mo Green is killed while having a massage, shot through the eye by an unidentified assassin, which was violent and brutal. Don Cuneo is trapped by a revolving door at the St. Regis Hotel and shot down by soldier Will Seichi. I don't know if I'm saying that right, which is again brutal and violent. Ton Talaglio is assassinated in bed with a prostitute by Rocco Lampone and an unknown associate. And you know the words, but I'll save it for the last point. Darn Barzini is killed on the steps of his office building along with his bodyguard and driver, shot by Al Neri, disguised in his old police uniform for the last time for this segment. It is brutally violent. Michael confronts Carlo about Sonny's murder and forces him to admit his role in setting up the ambush. Having been approached by Barzini himself, Michael assures Carlo he will not be killed, but his punishment is exclusion from all family business. He hands Carlo a plane ticket to exile in Las Vegas. However, when Carlo gets in the car headed for the airport, he is immediately garroted to death by Clemenza on Michael's orders. Later, a hysterical Connie confronts Michael at the Corleone compound as movers carry away the furniture in preparation of the family move to Nevada. She accuses him of murdering Carlo in retribution for brutal treatment of her and for Carlos' suspected involvement in Sonny's murder. After Connie is removed from the house, Kay questions Michael whether Connie's accusation, but he refuses to answer, reminding her to never ask about his business or what he does for a living. She insists, and Michael outright lies, reassuring his wife that he played no role in Carlo's death. Kay believes and is relieved. The film ends with Clemenza and, let me see if I'm saying this right, Caporegimes, Rocco Lampone, and Al Neri arriving, paying their respects to Michael. Clemenza kisses Michael's hand and greets him as Don Corleone as Kay watches the office door close, and the climax is very powerful. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 9.2 out of 10. This is a very well made movie with great cinematography. The actors were very mesmerizing in their roles, and their performances were very well done. Francis Ford Coppola does a fantastic job with making the movie as great as it is, despite he didn't want to do the movie in the first place. Excuse me. And we'll see if the next one is better than this, but it's a great movie by all means. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and I will be back with The Godfather Part 2. And until next time, capiche?